Yep, there you go. Have her go ahead and test it right where she's at.
Did you check it real quick to make sure it works? Just check it real quick to make sure it works from where you're sitting.
The little arrows.
There we go.
It's kind of hard for them to see what's behind them. Mr. Flynn down here. If Mr. Macias comes in, you'll see a little admit button pop up there, and you just have to hit it.
It stays up all year, and then in Board Appreciation Month, they switch it out for new artwork and stuff, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Diaz. Macias already here, yes.
Yeah.
Diaz, if he comes in, oh, but I'm just saying, if he decides to jump in.
This is something really great to look
Same
at.
time.
Does they get to know that there are?
All right, you all good?
I think I'm okay.
You'll want this microphone left on? No?
It's just me talking and us talking. Yeah, because they're going to say, like,
Okay.
thank you.
I'll wait for a thumbs up from Russ to, okay, I got a thumbs up from the booth. All right. This special meeting of the Judson Board of Trustees is hereby called to order at 6:06 p.m. I'm very pleased that you have taken time to join us this evening. In compliance with the State Government Code on Open Meetings, tonight's agenda has been appropriately posted. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. We have established a quorum, and I will call roll. Ms. King.
Shatanya King, present.
Ms. Pichelle.
Renee Pichelle, present.
Ms. Knoyer.
Suzanne Canoyer, present.
And I'm Jennifer Rodriguez, and I am present. Betty, did we have any public comment? No? Okay, no public comment, so we will move on to item 3, discussion, consideration of action items. We have HYA here to talk us through the leadership profile for our superintendent search. I'll turn it over to y'all.
Thank you. And we have Mr. Macias.
Oh, yes. We'll note that Mr. Macias is joined online, but because he is remote, he will not be voting if any action is taken today.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this evening and talk through what we've done for the last 41 days, believe it or not, since we first met in the planning session. We obtained a lot of information in the 2 days that we were here and other days that we did community focus groups and also on the survey. And I think you will find a lot of commonalities of the results, and that's good because it means you're together and we're ready to move forward in step. I want to thank a lot of people who helped. Of course, Ms. Rodriguez was on the phone with me several times. Nicole was there by our side quite a bit. Hi, Ms. Eaton. Good. Welcome.
And we'll let the record show that Ms. Eaton was able to arrive and join us.
Ms. Holmes was present at the other end of the line many times, and Lexi Greathouse. I want to compliment the communications department. Their scheduling of the focus groups was amazing. Their support during that time was tremendous. And it's not only us who think that they're wonderful. We heard quite a few times through the focus groups what a treasure you have in your communications department. So thank you for all of that. You're going to learn tonight about kind of the state of the district from the stakeholders' point of view, and that leads you to the desired characteristics of the next superintendent.
Okay, so you'll recognize the four of us. We're your team from Hazard Young and Atia, and Dr. Flynn, as you can see, is on on the big screen up there, and it will be with us this evening in that venue. So the first thing we want to do is just discuss quickly, you don't really have to discuss this, but the meeting objectives. What objectives do we have for this meeting tonight? Okay, so the first one is that the board members, and of course anyone else who may be watching, will have a detailed knowledge about the process and outcomes of the community engagement activities. The second one is that you will finalize and approve the leadership profile of desired characteristics. We're going to present that to you after we've gone through everything else. You'll have an opportunity to review it. You can revise it as you see fit as a board, and then we'll prepare that to be put out throughout your district and throughout all of the avenues of communication that we have with candidates and everyone else. And then obviously, as usual, you can stop us and ask questions at any point in the process. So here's what's happened in the last 40 days since we met with, 41 days actually, since we met with you. We have planned the search and community engagement activities. We conducted district research about your district that would be helpful to us in the process. And all of this was done, as Nola said, in conjunction with your team. And I'm sorry, I'll move it back and forth. And we really do appreciate them. We've had the opportunity to work with many communication teams. Yours are among the best, and we know you probably already know that, but we know it because we've been all over the state and we've witnessed that by working with them. But they were instrumental in extending the invitations to participate that came from the board president. We posted, publicized, and analyzed the survey, conducted interviews and meetings of your community members, staff members, and each of you board members. We compiled the data and did the analysis of that data and prepared a report, which you will see tonight. So I guess the next one is, in terms of district research, we studied all publicly. I'm sorry about this. I can't get that to turn off when it notifies me I have a text. And I probably know who's texting me, but I can't stop it. In fact, I think I can even turn it off and I can't stop it. But anyway, I do have the sound down so I won't get any rings of a phone call. So again, a note of thanks to the trustees and your staff. I mentioned specifically Nicole Tagnanod, Lexi Greathouse. I told Nicole I was going to get that right. And Betty Holmes, assistant to the Board of Trustees, and other associated staff who have helped them and helped us.
Technology.
Yes, technology support has been outstanding. We thank them for handling all the necessary arrangements for our meetings and assistance at the meetings and the follow-up that has taken place. So, Jody?
This is fussy for some reason. We'll go to the next slide with some assistance there.
Does this need to be moved over?
With regard to
Here it
the,
goes.
okay,
Thank you. Have this one.
let's see, there we go. With regard to the survey that we conducted, as you know, we posted the survey. It was up for just over 3 weeks. And the survey measured really two things, the state of the district and also leadership competencies that we were looking for in our next superintendent. I will tell you what an impressive number of staff and stakeholders that completed the survey, nearly 1,500, 1,495. with the majority or the most of the respondents coming from teachers and parents, and then, of course, followed by your support staff, administrators, community, students. We appreciate all 7 board members taking the time to do that survey as well. With regard to the state of the district, on the next slide, we'll get there so you can see it.
There it is.
There we go. So this was measuring the state of the district, and the top 5 areas with the highest percentage of respondents selecting agree or strongly agree. You can see those listed. I won't read them to you, but the top, the ones that are highlighted or bolded, the Board of Trustees also responded to the survey. That you all, as you all recall or will remember, you responded to the survey offline, whereas we had the other groups doing it online. And so we compiled those separately, but interestingly enough, 4 of the top chosen by the board are the ones that you see bolded on the screen up above. Also want to make sure you see the legend at the bottom that shows you what the initials mean, vision and values, the VV, teaching and learning, TL, community engagement, CE, and management. But if we go to the next slide, you'd want to just keep an eye on that. These were additional,
That's not it.
it's a little too far. There we go.
Okay, you just finished that.
State of the district, so yeah.
Can I add
Yes.
something?
Yes,
On
please.
those 4 areas, it's sort of another dipstick of, are all these 4 areas covered in terms of strengths in your district? Or are you lopsided in one way or the other? And in fact, what you're going to see is that you'll have a value or a strength in all 4 areas. And that's good. For the initial one, only 3 were listed as strengths, but we'll follow up on the next page. And
Right.
so that's just to help you get another indicator of how your district is doing.
Right. So looking for balance among those competencies. And when you look at the next slide, you'll see these were additional top selected choices by the board that surfaced. So there's 4 additional ones, but exactly what Nola mentioned, you'll see where what we didn't have on the page before was the vision and values. You see that come up with the board's responses. So there is that balance that merges between the 2. So again, I won't read those to you. That's just for you to review for just a moment. And then moving to the next slide, this was the leadership competencies portion. Again, you'll notice for the 4 bullets that are bolded, the same thing. The board also saw those as the top 4, just as the community and stakeholders that did the online version. And again, you'll look to see there's that balance within those vision and values, community engagement, teaching and learning, and management. If we go to the next
And
slide.
just to say, it doesn't work out that, it just so happened that you had 4 out of 5. In
Yeah.
some cases, the board might have 1 that the community has said are top strengths. The fact that you have 4 is a tremendous alignment
Right.
of the board with the community and what the community believes, and I think a strength of your board. It may sound like, oh, yeah, we've made it where it all works that way. It doesn't. Believe me, it doesn't. We've been there.
Yep. And then the next slide, yep.
Is that the one I'm on?
Yep, that's right.
Okay.
The board also selected these 2 competencies pertaining to the diverse student population and planning and management of long-term financial health of the district. So again, looking for that balance, you see that all 4 of those competencies are reflected between the board and the stakeholders that took the survey. Look at Peter.
All righty, it's now, and what that also reflects is that you're looking, and we'll notice later, and I'll point out, one of the characteristics that the community mentioned is we want a well-rounded superintendent, one who has an understanding of all aspects. Well, when you look at these competencies of online, you see that the community likewise said, we want someone who has strengths in all of these areas. And so, again, there's that alignment that is nice. Dr. Flynn is up next, way over here in the corner.
Okay, thank you. Well, just one more footnote on the previous slide, and that is that teaching and learning was chosen by the board as an important leadership competency. So that rounds out the 4 areas for that. And not only that, but the board selected that one and the one having to do with long-term financial status of the district. And the beauty of that is that happened to be the 6th and 7th overall. So again, the alignment is reinforced almost everywhere we look with the survey. So from the survey, we shift to the listening sessions. And, you know, I know the board members know this, but those who maybe didn't participate directly in this might not be aware that we asked the same 5 questions with everybody. The board, we asked the same questions as we did when we talked with the transportation department or we talked with a group of parents or students. And those are for the sake of consistency and so that we have that as we analyze the data. So we asked them about the strengths of the district and the challenges. That gives us the context within which to talk about the competencies, characteristics of the next superintendent. And that way we broke it down and asked specifically, talk to us about personal attributes that somebody should bring with them to the position. And then secondly, what kind of education, expertise, experience should this individual have in order to function well and address both the strengths and the challenges of the school district. And then we asked them what style, what administrative style would work best in Judson ISD. So the other questions, what would attract somebody to want to be the next superintendent? And then do you have the names of any possible candidates that might fit this set of characteristics that we're talking about? Now, we will say that we did ask the questions for the most part in just about every meeting that we had. However, the amount of time that we spent on those questions varied from meeting to meeting. So with that, we'll move on to the next slide, and we'll share with you the list of the meetings. And as you can see, we had 24 meetings with 213 people attending. So that was a great turnout, we thought. We worked hard in all of those meetings to chart what we heard. We wrote down almost everything that we heard. We tried to keep up, and we checked from time to time with people. And if we missed something, a specific comment that somebody wanted, they let us know about that, that we chart accurately. And then, for the most part, again, in most of the meetings, we asked people, what are of these characteristics that we're putting up here, which ones are really most important, should have it coming through the door on the job for the first time? And we asked that question and asked people to help us prioritize those. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here as we go along. But great turnout, a number of people, the number of meetings, just what you might expect. We appreciate the board's attendance at several of these meetings. That was good to have another set of eyes and ears listening and watching what was going on. So on the next page, we're going to talk a little bit about the specific attributes. We divide it up into 3 categories just because we think that it's good to have a way to organize this profile. We heard, and the number, by the way, is the number of category of groups. And there were actually 7 different groups. basically 6 in the survey, but 7 overall that we worked with. And so you saw that there in the listing of the meetings, but in the listening sessions, we did listen to people talk to us about attributes. And here's what they said: integrity and student-centered, transparent, and humble. Now, when they talked about integrity, honesty, ethics, words like that came up to complement the whole idea of integrity. Student-centered, the focus of one's actions and style was really important. Transparent, we'll hear that again when we get to the next category, but also humble came up with frequency as well. On the next slide, we hear about experience and expertise. Now, notice that alongside of communicator, the number 7. So all the groups said this was a priority. And when they talked about communication, they talked about listening. First, listening is the first skill that we learn in terms of communication. And that was very important, that they be listened to, they be validated in their work and the importance of their work, and there be a clear understanding on the part of the superintendent. And of course, be a clear and transparent communicator, using that word from the previous list. Now, when they talked about well-rounded, we heard this in terms of being knowledgeable about all the operations of a school district and be aware of what's going on in those various operation areas, of course, the instructional area as well. Then we heard about being a team builder, a relationship builder. We heard about different ways of building consensus. These were the important parts of this characteristic of being a team and relationship builder. And then finally, we heard about an instructional leader, academically focused. We also heard people talk about to do it in an organized, systemic way, so that when things were implemented, they were implemented with a set of metrics that could be monitored and reported on from time to time. So that's what we heard most prominently in expertise and experience. And now on the next slide, we'll talk about style. Look at the number again, 7. That's an important thing to notate. So we've got all 7 groups, categories of groups talking about the importance of being approachable and visible out in the schools, out in the community. Not just be there, but be a person to whom people would feel comfortable going up and talking to and asking questions and maybe sharing suggestions. Collaborative, that fits well in with the communications part, because again, to bring people along on the journey of affirming and building on the strength areas and then addressing the challenge areas. Somebody who's authentic and hands-on. Hands-on goes with being out, approachable, and visible. I'm going to turn it back over to Nola and look forward to your questions.
I would like to ask a quick question, and this is for anybody who'd like to answer this. So I'm very curious in, like, you do many of these superintendent searches. Which of these attributes, experience, style, which of these characteristics come up often in school districts, and what feels unique or something that seems to be an emphasis in Judson?
I can tell you that communicator comes up frequently in tech, especially as it relates to listening style. Integrity comes up, student-centered comes up. Those are common. Surprisingly, the well-rounded came up pretty strongly, that they want someone who isn't just a finance person or isn't just an area they want someone who will pay attention to their part of the district, so that they know that that person cares about all aspects of the district.
Someone that knows the entire district.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the instructional leader comes up pretty frequently. On the page about administrative style, surprisingly hands-on, even though only 2 groups brought that forward, the one that brought it forward were students. That students felt like it was important to have that hands-on kind of style for the new superintendent. You have any comment, any other
I would
comment?
say that collaborative comes up a lot in most school districts these days. And, you know, I mean, you recognize that pretty quickly. You've got buy-in from your staff and your board and your community. Things go a lot smoother.
Oh, yeah. We have an extremely diverse district. I mean, I'm not familiar with, I'm not familiar with other school districts, but in my experience, having served in the military for 28 years, we have an extremely diverse district. And I love it because it exposes our children to each and every other person that is in our area. And I think that is great, but we need a superintendent that understands that and can maneuver through that diversity.
I think if you, the 10-page document that you also have that go along with this PowerPoint, on page, let me find the pages, 5 and 6, you're going to see the strengths of the district, and that came out very strongly, Ms. Eaton, that diversity, and, I mean, we heard over and over, the programs available to the students is unbelievable, and people very much value that, and then they value the diversity. So how that's reflected in who you choose, you have to determine that weight. But the community really values that diversity, and so I'm assuming you'll want someone who also values that diversity, and especially as you're talking about in terms of the military background. In terms of that strength, it also talked about staff members, and that the long-term, the longevity you have and the strength of the staff that you have. Interestingly enough, in the challenges are staff. And keeping staff here and making sure you have enough staff and high-quality staff to meet those programs that they value so much. And they're worried about that, that being a challenge. And then you mentioned also, Ms. Eaton, the issue of equity and making sure that equity in across the whole district is, there's attention paid to that. And then Dr. Flynn referred to consistency. We heard quite a bit about the lack of systems and the lack of consistent practices, and where is that okay and where is it not okay, and questions about that. Anything else?
No, that's great.
Well, we took the survey data and we took the listening sessions data, and we have written a desired characteristics using those words and the things that were brought forward. On page 17 of the slides, sorry, that's my slides, but on this slide, you see the 7 competencies that were brought forward, and use the top 5 that we mentioned, 4 of which overlap with the community and 1 additional one, and then the 2 that were number 6 and 7 for the overall, but that the board brought forward that gives you that well-rounded picture of the overall competencies selected on the survey. That's the top 7 bullets. And then the bottom are those attributes that, yes.
I apologize for being left, but when you say page,
I'm sorry, I was referring to slide 17.
one that says draft,
The one that says draft, if you go here to page 9 at the
okay,
bottom.
okay.
Sorry, I am very sorry.
No, it's
I
my fault,
misled
I was
you.
late.
Misled you. On page 9, it's the same thing. and it has the 7 overall competencies selected from the online survey, and then from the listening sessions at the bottom of the page. And that's what's reflected in this slide. And so you have the 12 characteristics from the listening sessions, the 7, now we have 19 that to look at in terms of the profile for the next superintendent. Does that make sense? If you want to know just a little bit more detail, you go back to page 8 on the 10-page document. Every group category of respondents is listed there, and what their responses were for attributes, experience, and their style. And if it's bolded, that means it also matched another group. And from that, we took the top groups and came up with the blue that's on the slide with the overall. So you can see the commonalities are fairly great. But if you wanted to know, well, I wonder what the community thinks. Well, the community felt this way, or what do the faculty think? They felt this way. Okay? So now we go to just the elements of the description that we've written, and we can, I like for you to think about 2 things as you read this. You see, you have at your space a 1 page that looks like this. You also have page 10 that is on landscape. It's really, those are the same thing. They're the exact same thing. What I'd like to know from you is there anything in this that you do not think should be in here? That you think is totally off base, and you are the decision-making body for this district? Do you feel like there's something in here that is just not accurate? And we're going to go page by page, paragraph by paragraph. And then any elements that are not included that you think should be in here based on what you know and what you have heard. So let's go through it. The first paragraph is, after receiving input from administrators, community members, faculty, parents, students, and support staff, the Judson Independent School District Board seeks an experienced leader with integrity who has had demonstrated success in a uniquely diverse school district with a track record of relationship building and student achievement to be its next superintendent. Now, I've highlighted the words that came to the top from the groups, but I want to point out some other words that were also mentioned in groups that some of you probably heard. Demonstrated success. There were people in the groups that said they need to know, they need to have done this before and can show us they can do it. And we also heard the appreciation for diversity and having worked in a diverse school district. So on this first paragraph, anything in there that you feel should not be in there or that needs to be added that's not there? If you're comfortable with that one, let's go to paragraph 2. We can always go back. The board seeks, paragraph 2, the board seeks someone who will be visible and approachable and is an effective listener and communicator. The selected candidate will be student-centered, humble, and transparent, particularly skilled in building and unifying teams in a collaborative manner, especially in the development of a team relationship with the board. And I also, in my mind, underline team relationship with the board because I think that's important.
Well, we're a team of 8.
You're a team of 8. You got to have a superintendent that works with you. You comfortable with that paragraph? Okay. The next paragraph is, this individual should be a people person who has had success as an instructional leader, focusing on academic strength, who is well-rounded in all aspects of the organization, and who will work collaboratively with the staff and community. The board of the Judson Independent School District seeks an authentic, hands-on leader who will be a part of the community long-term, leading in diversity and equity, especially as they relate to student achievement and human resources aimed at retaining an outstanding, diverse staff. And I underlined student achievement and human resources aimed at retaining an outstanding, diverse staff. While it didn't float to the very top on those other things, we heard it. Yes.
I can tell you that I strongly appreciate this because originally I'm from Chicago, and I can say that I had graduated from high school 17 to 18 years later, and still my principal and the officer that was our constable at the time when I was there as a student was still there. They knew the students, they knew the staff. Now, I understand that people choose various reasons for moving around, but I would want my legacy from this board to be that I was able to work with my colleagues to to bring someone on board that when I leave, whether it's my next term is up, whatever happens, but that I can leave that person here knowing, you know what? The district's in great hands, because this person worked with us as a diverse board and our teachers and our staff, and made sure that our concerns about student outcomes was at the forefront of their mind and their instruction. And so, yes, love it, love it.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much. We heard a lot of this. You did, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
The next page are the 7 competencies that came out of the survey. And again, the board had picked 5 of those, 4 of the top 5, and as the overall, and that we are suggesting you put all 7 in the profile when we put it out and when we're talking to people. We believe it's important, and that the last 2 are equally as important as the top ones, to bring that well-roundedness to that. So what that does is leave you with this page. We typically take off the bolded words when we put it out there, but it's just to show you from which all this came and how it is built on what we heard from the community and the survey results.
And
Well, and occasionally a board will say, we want to leave some of those words in, or leave them all in, because we want people to know what are the priorities and what's important to us. So it's your decision as to whether bold or not to bold.
I think that honestly, being excessively clear helps with equity in the hiring process. Like, we leave no doubt about what is important to us, and like, here you go. Talk to us about this. So I have no problem keeping it keeping the words bolded, because they're probably the ones they're going to pick. If they were going to go through and highlight keywords, they're probably the same thing they'd pick out. But my question I was going to ask is, how does this get published, so to speak?
We've had a generic job description out on the web. This now goes in there tomorrow.
Okay.
And this is what we send to every candidate and say, prior to our interviews,
Great.
know that this is what the board is looking for, and this is what we will be talking to you about. And so it's not going to be financial strength, in terms, they're talking about academic strength. It's not going to be other things. It's going to be this. Because some districts have other priorities and other issues. But this is what we talk about. We design our questions to our screening interview around this, and then you will design your questions around this same profile, which leads me to kind of our next task once we're through with this, if we think we have a consensus that this is it.
I'm sorry.
Go.
I'm hoping that along with this, that they can see by the passing of this last bond, that some of the concerns that may enter their mind, they can put that to rest, because security is top for us. Securing our technology, securing our students and staff first, and our technology is very important to us. And that's why a lot of that was a part of the bond, as well as making sure that our students can get transportation to the schools or the areas where they need to be when they need to be there.
For those great programs.
So those are things that I'm hoping that they'll look at and go, okay, this board is serious. They got out there, they fought for this, and I can come in and fulfill these needs for them. And then we all move forward together as a team.
Awesome. Yeah, that's absolutely the way they'll look at that bond, for sure.
I'm praying. Sorry.
I'd just like to say how thankful I am that we've had this process. In every group, it felt to me, the ones that I saw, people were being honest. They were sharing their true concerns and joys and wishes and all of those things. And I feel like this really does capture not only what we as the board see, because again, we're at that 30,000 mile, but the people who are actually living it every day. And I think this is going to be a really good piece of information for us to go back and share with the community. They'll see it, of course,
Right.
that we listened. This is what we're looking for. This is a superintendent for all of us. And so I really appreciate how careful and thoughtful you all were in handling these meetings. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's one of the things we really like about this process, is that people who participated will see that we listened. And it's reflected.
Rick, talk in that mic.
I'm sorry. One of the things that we really like and value in this process is that when we finish this process and you approve it, they're going to see their input reflected in the profile. And if they just think back about the input that they gave and the group that they were in, they're going to see it in there. And it's a result of taking everything down, working it all through the big picture process where it all comes together from all the different groups and individuals. And so thank you for that, but that's exactly what the purpose is.
And I think this gives us a good roadmap as well when the new superintendent is onboarding about, this is what is important to the community, this is what is important to us, how's that going to live out in the way we do our jobs moving forward?
I looked at your strategic plan, and a lot of it is aligned there in terms of diversity, equity, academic strength. A lot of those things are reflected in that as well. So,
Could I add one more thing?
yes,
You have established an outstanding superintendent search page on your website. As soon as you open up your website and the home page, there it is, superintendent search. The button is right there. You go right to that page. And this, of course, one-page statement would be absolutely important. But the other, you might want to consider the entire 10 pages of the executive summary. To put that also on your superintendent search page. I have a feeling that when people come and want to see an update on your website, that would be the place they go. And your communications department, again, has established an excellent attractive kind of supervision. We're really grateful for that.
And you'll note that, oh, I'm
I
sorry.
just want to say, I think that's a good idea. Peter, this is Renee. I think that's a good idea because the community may want to see the data that supports it.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Tomorrow, I will send to you and some information, Nicole, to put on the website with the draft off of it and, approved by the board today, if you so choose to do that. This is called an executive summary because there's a whole 37-page report. And it has every note that we took from every focus group in the appendix, with summary of that, with strengths and with the challenges summarized, where we went through and we'd pull out the common ones and put for all the administrator groups, for example, all the teacher groups, and the top 3 strengths, the top 3 challenges, the top 3 attributes for every focus group, every category of respondents that we had, including the board. So there's another 27 pages of those. I'm not sure that needs to be on the website, but the next superintendent
Might
will
want that.
want to see that, and members of the board may want to see that, and we'll put that in the board portal for you to be able to look at. So if you feel like we're at a place that we're in good place here.
Did you want us to take a vote on this to approve it?
It's really
or,
what you normally do. If we're comfortable that the conversation
Yeah,
has
did
said.
we have it as an action item?
Possible.
So let's go ahead and then we have it on record that this was, who was here, who approved it, and that, if we are all in agreement, it will show either we're all in agreement or not, but, yeah. All
Okay.
right. So since we don't have our voting machines, I'll do a roll call vote.
Can I make a motion first?
Yes, thank you, yes, please.
I move that we approve the superintendent profile as presented by
Second.
HYA.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Ms. Eaton?
I approve.
Yes, thank you. Ms. King?
Tanya King, aye.
Ms. Fischel?
Renee Pichelle, aye.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, aye.
And I, Jennifer Rodriguez, also vote aye. So it is.
Mr. Macias?
Approved.
He can't vote.
He can't
He can't
vote
vote.
on
Oh, okay.
online, yeah.
But thank you for attending and listening
Yes.
to the whole thing. Tomorrow, I will send out you some information, but I'm going to ask you for interview questions. Now you have the areas in which you need questions, and I will send a document that we have from Hazard Young and T. Oh gosh, that have all of the sample questions. If you don't mind pulling out the 2 or 3 that for you are very important that we get in, you probably have time for maybe 14 or 15 questions at the most, but you want to make sure we cover all categories and all of that, and send those to me or Rick or Jody or Peter by the 20th, so 2 weeks from now, and I'll have it in your, I'll send it
Will we be
by.
able to text that? Email
Absolutely,
that?
you can. I will.
Okay, Peter, you're off the line. He's been holding my hand.
I'll do it by email and I'll do it by portal, both, so that everybody can have it. And so then we'll bring us a script, really, of those questions for you to think about on the 27th. And then you can say, nah, we don't think that question is good, let's put this one in or whatever. But we'll have that prepared for you. So thank you very much. And then
Ready?
end of it.
Okay. So I have a question for you. Have we achieved the objectives of this meeting that we
Yes.
laid out at the beginning?
Yes.
Everybody is in agreement that we achieved those objectives? Well, thank you very much for that. We believe it's a very viable process. One of the things that, and you've kind of spoken to that we've seen, especially in the interview we had with boards. You remember the interview we had with you, and you hired us, thank you, where boards are usually some of them under more pressure than others about the community involvement. Some of them to the point that they want it to be an open search, which we always, as you heard, we recommend against. So we try to overcompensate for that by making this process so transparent and having all this information to where you can show them that the community was extremely involved in helping you develop this profile. And so we hope you'll be able to use that. If you have questions, that this is at your disposal to back up how this process worked and the results and why the results came out the way they did.
And
So-
just in case the community has questions about why wouldn't you want an open search? Why would you recommend against that? That's mainly because it may impact who applies because, if you don't get it, then,
Exactly.
it's public that you didn't get it or that you were looking.
Absolutely, and that's the
Yeah.
reason we make the recommendation.
It protects candidates. is what
Protects
you're
the
saying.
candidates,
Yeah.
and you have a primary interest in protecting those candidates if you want to get the best ones.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. You want the best candidates, that's the bottom line. This gives you the information that any person in their right mind would provide you if you let them be in on the interviews. You've given them the information that they need because of the way the process works. So anyway, we're very proud of that and have gotten a lot of feedback about it over the years. So this is the collective wisdom of your staff and community and board that collectively gave this input, that provided this, and with the expertise of my team members, they were able to put it in a written state that really describes it well, I think. I'm not going to take any credit for that because they do all that work. So we're moving now to another phase of the search. We have, up to this time, been reviewing applications. A lot of people have applied, some of those without us having discussions with them, some of them that we have reached out to and said, take a look at this district. Just want you to be thinking about it. We don't have a profile yet. We can't say that, that we're even going to interview you yet. We're right there now. That's where we're going to spend our time until your next meeting, where we bring this thing to where the search starts picking up speed very quickly at that point. But for the next few weeks, we're going to be working real hard to find the best candidates for you. As I said, we've already been reviewing applications. We've been to a couple of conferences, one of the biggest state conference in the end of January, the national conference, which to our benefit this year was in San Antonio last month. So we got to see and visit with
good weather in February.
and good weather.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah, absolutely, good job. And so we got to visit with superintendents from Texas and around the country as you're doing a national search. And so we put together a lot of information, and we suspected or expected that there would be a lot of interest, and there has been. We haven't had anybody just, with a few exceptions where people just had a family reason or something like that, they just absolutely said, no, this is not a good time for me. I can't consider that. Other than that, we haven't had anybody that we've kind of posed a question to that didn't say, well, let me take a look at it. And so we're pleased with that response that we've gotten up to this point. We think we're going to have a really good slate for you based on the people that we've had a lot of conversations among ourselves about these people that we've been kind of scouting. And now we're going to start vetting these people. We're actually going to interview a certain number of them when we're culling it down to the top ones. We're starting actually tomorrow. We're going to start interviewing the ones that we think are at this point the top candidates. And we will, we always tell people, and we get candidates who ask us from time to time, well, when does this close? As far as we're concerned, it doesn't close till you hire the superintendent. We're not, in fact, one of the I guess the last one we did, we found the candidate who got the job about 3 days before we started selecting the slate. We didn't even, we hadn't never, any of us had never met her. And once we met her, and I actually happened to be lucky enough to be the one that met her at a conference, I called my team and I said, guys, you got to meet this lady. We need to talk to her. So we talked to her over that weekend, and that next, beginning that next week, we put her in the slate, and she got the job. And so we don't ever want to stop until you stop. So that's where we're at right now. And then the other thing I would remind you, we've said this before in our meetings, trust the process. You've seen how the quality of the process up to this point, we think the rest of it will be of that same quality. Just hang in there, trust the process. And as you go forward, this always happens, and I just warn you about it. If you've been through a search before, you've been through this. A lot of people are going to start guessing at who you're going to pick. And they're going to ask you, what about so-and-so? Or they're going to look not just for your answer, but for your facial expression. You have to really start thinking about playing poker from here on out. You don't need to have any expression that gives anything away to them, because every once in a while, usually they're just as wrong as they can be. Every once in a while, somebody will guess accurately, and you'll think, wait a minute, this isn't a closed search. They figured this out. They just guessed. I can guarantee they just guessed. And because we'll submit to you that it always has been up to this point. It will continue to be until you select the lone finalist. The only people in the whole world who will know who these people are the 4 of us and the 7 of you. We're not sharing it with anybody. We don't want you to share it with anybody. And that way you'll get the best candidate. You'll have the opportunity to pick and not have this explode on you at the last minute.
And you really don't want someone pulling out because it's caused a problem.
Exactly.
They are. And so that's the real reason for that confidentiality, is let them go through the whole process, because if they start having trouble in a job they really like and the people really like them, they're going to say, I better back out. And you don't want that. You want the best person.
And we have to continue to assure the candidates that that's the case. Because sometimes, and some of them, they get real nervous because they're good and they've got a good situation, and somebody on their own staff will say, hey, are you looking at that Judson job? They got to play poker too, and not getting, they call us immediately, hey, has this gotten out? No, not as far as we're concerned. You've got somebody guessing about you. They're guessing because you're really good. That's why they're guessing when it comes to a candidate. And so, anyway, we just want to warn you that's going to happen.
Yep.
And just be prepared.
Just not gonna say nothing.
Don't say anything.
That's what
Don't
you
wink.
need. Yeah, I don't know.
Don't wink. Don't smile. Don't frown. Just
Nothing.
play. Yeah, be very stoic
Nothing.
until you name your lone finalist. Then you say whatever you want to
Yeah.
say.
This is a relatively short meeting. The next one will not be. We will have a lengthy closed session next time.
Okay.
Because we will have the slate for you, and we want to make sure that you're prepared for the interviews that happen after that. So I'm giving you a little more time tonight, because next time I'll need it back.
So next time you get dinner, right?
Next time you get dinner, Betty. Yes, that's right.
And that next time is the 27th
27th, yes, ma'am.
at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are there anything else for us? Ms. Rose?
No, there being no other business, we will now adjourn at 7:04 PM. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody. Appreciate
You
it.
bet.
Thank you.
Very much.
Please, appreciate you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Pete.